Harvesting?
No, we're still trying,
Oh,
we'll
the
be
last week
trying to
took me
plant until we
upgrade
start harvesting.
my
Oh, it's
Medicare.
got some, land under flood or
We're gonna
something?
transfer you to somebody else, and
Yeah,
by the time
and
they
it's-
said, okay, I hit the.
You got flood insurance, all right? Is that how that
Bad
works?
as me.
Yeah, it's regular crop insurance.
Yeah.
Like I've had it for 4 years, nothing screwed up, so why
But
should
yeah,
I
we
start
planted
this?
it twice already and
so we're
we're
good
trying
for
to plant it the third time and,
Third time's a charm.
well, yeah, if we
Yeah.
could get down there.
Is Tyson gonna be here?
I didn't receive a comment one way or the other from it.
Okay, so you're gonna lead the meeting then?
What's that?
You're gonna lead the meeting or?
Yeah, I will, but what I'm gonna do is after we do call the meeting to order and do the pledge, at
Uh-huh.
that point, I'm gonna ask the board to vote on a president for tonight's meeting,
Oh, okay,
so that I've got somebody that can sign minutes when we get to that point.
okay.
So was it just me last night, or did that thunder start an hour and a half to 2 hours? I was listening to thunder 2 hours before it ever started raining. I mean, it was way off, and it's like, come on, I'm not used to this.
Yeah.
I was in bed. Who cares? That's what my husband said. He goes, it really
Yeah.
stormed last night. I'm like,
Well,
yeah, well,
I dumped an inch. and
roof's still on the
3/4.
house.
the house is, I'm still in bed. The tree
Okay.
hasn't fallen on the house, right?
There you go.
Yep, that's what I had too.
What?
1.75 inches.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
No wonder Mark said he couldn't mow today.
That was his excuse anyway.
Well, he loves to mow. Let's not.
Oh,
get
well.
into
then
He's
it wasn't-
retired.
Then it was an excuse.
that. Yeah, he loves to mow.
I got mine mowed yesterday afternoon.
Yeah.
Be nice to the,
He can't trim bushes and all that anymore, but
be nice to the
he does love to. mow.
person behind you or mow every once in a while. That tri-cap house. I don't know what the deal with that is.
What's the address? We got a code enforcement officer sitting there. Oh, never mind.
What's your address?
Oh, the house behind me, that tri-cap house.
Oh, yeah, Donnie's all over that one.
I wonder how they get away with those wildflowers they planted in front of that,
Well, that's gonna be a conversation.
that,
The
assistant.
mayor and I
living-
have already started that conversation.
Bullshit, that.
Beehive and
Yeah.
some of the others, yeah.
That's
Uh,
ridiculous.
It
We've got
looks,
one- We've got one on 12th Street that's doing the same thing, and I've got two houses on Chestnut that are doing it.
who else? On North,
1905.
1905. I have to look. I live right there.
State with them in my ditch in front of me.
1905. I have to look.
Yeah, second house north of 19th Street on the right-hand side.
It's right where I live, right?
Right.
I don't know. I don't pay. I just
That's
noticed the
that's
beehive.
what Mark's been doing.
He'll go down there and cut that damn grass farm, whether he wants it
Are
cut
we
or not.
live yet?
Yeah, we're live.
We're live here.
Oh,
somewhere.
shit. Sorry.
Sorry.
Most people know me, know I cuss like a sailor, so that's okay.
Didn't say we were live.
You did? Oh, well, okay. Sorry.
You're okay.
Nobody's watching, hopefully.
Yeah, Maybe.
Who cares? Right? No, sorry. I apologize.
We're close enough. You want to call the meeting to order?
Okay.
Air pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. It looks like we have everybody. I know Rachel had indicated via email that she was going to be out of town, would be unable to attend tonight's meeting. I had not heard from Tyson one way or the other, but obviously he's not here yet. He may come in late. If so, we'll count him at that point. Then I've got Sandy,
Here?
Todd,
Here.
Matt,
Here.
Glenn,
Here.
Larry,
Here.
Dennis.
Here.
Okay. All right, with that, we've got our quorum established. Before we get too far into the meeting, I want to introduce the newest plan commission member, Larry Fusler,
Oh, it was Larry.
He is a county appointment.
Welcome.
He's one of their two county appointments, Dennis Whitsitt being the other one. Primo, had submitted tendered his resignation, indicated that he wanted to, now that he was retiring, he wanted to travel a little bit more and do some other things in life while he could enjoy it. So, we're gonna miss him. He was on the plan commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals for a long time, so.
Mhm.
One thing I'd like the plan commission to do, since Rachel is our president and Tyson is the vice president, I would like the board to appoint a president for tonight's meeting, so that we can secure signatures on the minutes of your March 30th meeting.
Any volunteers?
I can run the meeting tonight.
I was
Okay, Glenn?
thinking you should do that.
Thank you, Glenn.
Since
Thank you,
he's at
Glenn.
the head of,
Since you're at the
Head of
head
the
of the
table.
table, senior member.
Senior moments too.
Senior.
so he's only got to ask for the vote.
Yeah, that's right.
They gotta vote on that, right?
Yes.
Need a motion to approve me as president for tonight only.
I make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I guess we have the introduction of the new planning commission member. Larry just did that. Review and approve minutes for the March 30th meeting. Everybody get a chance to look at them. So I need a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion made, need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those likewise.
Okay. Glenn, I'm gonna secure your signature on that, and then we'll need Sandy to sign as well as secretary. The only other item I have on the agenda, well, two other items on the agenda tonight. With Primo's retirement, resignation from the Plan Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, and his retirement, the Plan Commission needs to appoint one of our two county appointees to the plan, or to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Todd is the Plan Commission's essentially city representative, Plan Commission representative, but by statute, the other appointment needs to be one of the two county appointments. Primo served that in the past. And for Larry actually sat in on the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting last week or the week before last, just to get an idea what it was like. Board of Zoning Appeals meetings are not one that has an established meeting. It's generally on an as-needed basis. Sometimes one or two a year at most. Other times we've gone, I think 2024, we didn't have any meetings. They're going to hear variances, special exceptions, and things like that. But for our two county council, or Du Bois County appointments to the Plan Commission, probably ought to be lobbying pretty hard right this moment, because because it needs to be done tonight.
Well, Larry's got his foot in the door. He's-
I'll go either way, 'cause I'm just feeling.
Well, Dennis, you're a busy man. Do you want it since you've been on here longer? If you want it, you could have it. I would think, don't you believe seniority? And if you don't
Yeah.
want it, I'm sure Larry would.
I'm
gladly-
buying that.
Yeah, whatever. No, I mean, you would take it, right?
Yeah, well, it's just that it would probably land on a day that I'm trying to plant corn or something, the one time of the
Yeah,
year.
And I will say, being on the BZA is probably a little bit more stressful than being on the planning commission, so you would need to be able to
Yeah.
Be a strong
Oh,
individual.
well, Larry is.
Both
Yeah.
gray and bald, so.
Yeah,
it's,
yeah. That's what I'm
taking more
saying.
stress.
You got to be able to stand your ground. Would you agree, Paul?
Yes. Yeah, you're more likely, the Plan Commission doesn't have a lot of rezonings come before it, especially rezonings that are potentially contentious.
Correct.
We've had one since I've really one since I've been here. That was up near you.
Mhm.
Board of Zoning Appeals, when you get into special exceptions, which satellite nodes, like you see out at the county line, that would be something that would be a special exception. Solar projects are a special exception. So, things like that are generally going to be a little more acrimonious. You're going to see bigger crowds than that. But it may only be once or twice a year, or it may not be at all. It may be every 2 years. It just depends. 90% of the variances that the Board of Zoning Appeals has seen in the last 10 years have probably dealt with historic lots of record that are 70 feet wide instead of the 80 feet required by ordinance, so they need to get a variance from the standards, says it's okay to put a house back on a lot that's had a house for the last 100 years, even though it's narrower than it would be. Sometimes you'll see them for height, if they want to go slightly higher than what the ordinance allows, which generally is 25 feet on a two-story home. But if they need to go slightly higher than that, things like that. They're not always really down at what I call ones that are going to get everybody wound up about
Right.
it, but you'll occasionally have.
Well, that would be the only thing I would be concerned with.
Be one of those things, if you make it, you make it, Dennis. You know.
Oh, okay. It's not,
Glenn, you serve on,
Mandatory.
Well, normally
you
what
serve
happens
on
is,
planning, don't you? Or Todd does?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
normally what happens with the Board of Zoning Appeals, since they don't have an established meeting date and time, as soon as a petition is filed with me, that petition, that application has to be filed at least 28 days before they want a hearing to be held. I generally tell people it's a 30 to 45 day process. And the reason for that is as soon as it's filed, I will reach out to all the Board of Zoning Appeals members and I will give them 2 or 3 days and times to meet. And usually that's going to be a Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Thursday evening at 5:30. And we'll take a poll to see if we can establish a quorum. There are five seats on the Board of Zoning Appeals. I've operated for 2 years with 4. So it was very important that we had so it's not like we're going to say you have to be at every meeting. Obviously, sometimes life and work gets in the way. So it just depends. And like I said, we'll reach out, and if the 3 dates I throw out initially don't work, at that point, we'll come back with other dates.
well, that's the problem. A week ahead, I don't know. if
Right,
that's a good
because,
day.
yeah,
I'm getting that you don't feel like you should.
Well,
serve.
yeah, if that's the case, it doesn't sound like it will be too onerous. So I'd be willing to serve.
There you
Okay.
go.
So do we have a motion to
Talk me
appoint
into it.
Dennis?
Make a- oh, President, I can't do that.
Sure you can.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to appoint Dennis to the BZA.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. Motion
I think it
made.
was unanimous.
Thank you. All right.
Unanimous.
Um,
You're it, man.
Unanimous.
I like it.
I've done quite a few meetings. We
Like
just
that,
had
I
3
like it a
people.
lot.
Just 3 of us doing the meeting, so.
Now,
But Dennis is,
That's what,
Dennis-
all you are after, right? Give
Dennis
another
will do a good
pierce,
job.
Audrey.
you'll do a good job.
Um,
You'll do some investigation.
Go out and measure how tall.
If you can.
we mentioned talking about contentious there's some material in your packet tonight.
Mm.
I want the plan commission, just there, more food for thought. We're not aware of any data center projects. Well, let me back up. Huntingburg has data centers in it now. And those have been around for quite a while. Those are your banks, certain manufacturers and things like that. Those data centers are quite a bit different from what you're reading about or hearing about nationwide. But our Unified Development Ordinance, our zoning ordinance, doesn't even reference data centers in. So one of the conversations the mayor and I and some others in the community have had is, rather than wait and react, let's get ahead of this a little bit. And some of the things that other communities are looking at are, what's the appropriate, there are definitions, and the definitions of data centers, the top one is statutory regarding what a data center is. The second one is a data center for the income tax credits the state offers. And really what we want to start the conversation with in the thought process, okay, what's an appropriate zoning district to consider them in? and do we want to consider them only as a special exception, which is what I would probably recommend if it were up to me.
Right.
Some of the things below that where it talks about special exception are things that you would typically seen as criteria they would need to meet in order to be considered under the special exception, and that is, what are your setbacks? Some communities, Marion County has gone with 400 feet. Most communities I'm seeing in that are adopting zoning are saying 500 feet away from the closest structure on an adjacent or a contiguous property or adjacent property. Noise levels. 55 decibels seems to be a number that a lot of communities have looked at.
What number is he?
55 decibels. And those are just benchmarks to start the conversation with.
And I'm getting in the weeds here a little bit. Average or max?
Um,
I'm guessing average.
average but the other thing that gets into it, lighting and lighting plans. What kind of lighting are you going to allow? Does it need to be adjustable, focused in, out? Utility use. How much water? Is it going to be once through? Or is it going to be a recirculated process with makeup water made like you would see in a power plant? Electric consumption, those are all factors that we want to look at. Are they going to use natural gas generators as backup? Or are they going to, and if so, are they going to use BESS? Just like with solar, you're seeing some of these bigger systems in other states
Mhm,
that they're using the battery backup.
mhm.
This is a conversation that Glenn will attest to, will come up with the council as well. We've not been directed to develop a new ordinance. But there are points that we would wanted to get out there to get you to think about it a little bit, or start thinking about it. The second document that looks like this is actually a report that was done relatively recently for a 3 megawatt data center that's going in over close to Charlestown, Indiana. I included this in your packet tonight because it looks at and studies and has information on what the data center is, what some of its impacts are to a community, the good, the bad, and I won't say the good, the bad, and the ugly, but it gives you an idea of what some communities look at. In talking to the mayor, I could have inundated you with a stack 2 inches thick of information tonight from communities that have draft ordinances in place, or communities that have recently passed ordinances and what they're looking at. What I wanted to do is start you into the process with just a few considerations to think about. And then every few days, I'll send you a PDF of some of the other communities, and I'll identify what it is, obviously. Is that Hancock County? Is that going to be LaPorte County? Some of the communities that have gone through this process already and what they're proposing or what they've come up with. You're not going to see one size fits all. I don't anticipate that the conversations on data centers in Indiana is going to cool off anytime soon. They're huge. And what I'll tell you is that in some of the communities, while I'm not going to begrudge any farmer the ability to sell or lease land of his to anybody they want. In some of the communities that I've seen a lot of pushback in, it's primarily going on agricultural ground. Monrovia, Indiana is one that if they had to go through a special exception and a rezoning, but that entire quadrant around there is nothing but warehouse and distribution on one side and north of I-70 and ag fields to the east of it. My guess is if it was somewhere else, it would probably be people would be just as wound up that suddenly their backyards of their $2 million homes are going to have this great big thing behind them. So that's what we want to kind of avoid. We want to get ahead of this and start thinking about it. Ultimately, the decision on whether this needs to be heavy industrial only or heavy industrial and agricultural, both those zoning districts, that's not going to be my decision to make. My recommendation would be to probably leave it heavy industrial. The other thing to keep in mind is if the community decides and the council decides that they want to see a 500-foot setback, you pretty well have,
Nothing available.
there's really not much that's going to be available because of the floodplains that surround the
Yeah.
community and are.
That's what I was thinking. How much heavy industrial land do we even have available inside the city limits in the 2-mile jurisdiction? Or such a,
Essentially Rodney Bushcutter's property, the old one out north of OFS,
uh-huh,
some of those tracks out there. Unfortunately, when you look at them, Bushcutter's property is 25% floodplain.
mhm,
It's also reclaimed ground,
Yeah.
right.
which a data center, and the mayor and I just talked about this afternoon, data centers can go on reclaimed ground, but it costs them 30% more to do it because they have to put what's called a floating foundation in,
Yeah.
a floating slab.
And how close is the nearest residential to that?
There's a house.
There's a
probably,
house
yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
So
So it's kind of silly to put it in heavy industrial when you can't ever put it in heavy industrial.
And you're gonna run into the same thing in most of the tracks of agricultural. I went out driving around just,
Uh-huh.
I spent better part of 3 or 4 hours in 2 days just driving around looking
Mm.
at sites.
Hmm.
There are really not to say that we shouldn't
Yeah, I know.
but there really are not a lot of sites that are going to be conducive to something like that.
Right.
So out south of town, as you get near the airport, that's more than 2 miles. Jurisdiction?
Roughly 750, a little bit south of County Road 750 is, the airport's not in the jurisdiction.
Okay.
It's actually on the north, the jurisdictional line is just on the north of that. I'm glad you said that. I'll send you a PDF of the color map of what our extraterritorial jurisdiction, everybody calls it 2-mile fringe. That's the maximum you can go by state law. City of Huntingburg does not go out 2 miles in any direction. And they apparently use section lines so it's a nice square.
You know, the other thing, and I don't know how far you want to get into this tonight, but just maybe a question, because you have years of experience. When I looked down some of this list, looking at things like decibel levels and setback and those things and water consumption, I mean, obviously we have industry here that you can drive down the road and I don't know if it's over 55 or not, but it probably is. And high water consumption, those things. So does it pass the legal muster to target a data center with those requirements when there's others that may be exceeding them?
In land use planning, there's such a thing as first come, first serve.
Got it.
And one of the things that Huntingburg does, because we own all our utilities for the most part, one of the first things we do when we have a project come in, if it's somebody that wants looking at doing a restaurant or something else, is we sit down with them, with all the utility superintendents, as well as their civil engineer, and say, okay, how much water, how much gas, how much electric, and so forth, and find out, is there service anywhere near you? Do we have the capacity to even serve you? And that's what some of the communities have done is they'll look at what that energy can, and if they can't provide it, they can't provide it. And it's not that they've set their their usage rates arbitrarily low. But, City Lake is City Lake. That's X number of gallons of water that come in.
I guess even for, let's issue specifically on the decibel level, we said 55.
Yeah.
And we applied that, but yet a manufacturer comes in and is obviously over that. Not a problem?
Now, what I'll tell you is, I guarantee you there's an attorney somewhere in the world
Sure.
that will take it up as a suit no matter what. My experience has been over time is that when you're looking at special exceptions, and that's where that decibel level will come into play, it's fair game to include it there,
Okay.
as long as it's not arbitrary and capricious. If you have somebody else coming in, if you had a metal vendor coming in that's going to have a stamping operation like the old truck and bus facility in Indianapolis used to be, and at that point, you're going to need to look at noise and other factors that will come into play.
You'd be smart to keep them within the parameters, right?
And for the most part, my experience has been over the years is most manufacturers want to be relatively good neighbors. The ones that you've had, especially the ones that grew up during World War II and after World War II, the Allisons, the Fords, the General Motors, while they stubbed their toes occasionally, they did a pretty good job of being good neighbors. Data centers, I've not had a lot of experience, but I've spoken to a lot of my peers. And, part of the problem that I see with data centers philosophically is, and I've seen it in other projects, is as soon as they come into the community, they require everybody that's elected or somebody they're going to be talking to sign a non-disclosure agreement.
No.
Wow. Mount Vernon just is going through that right now. Where Posey County, the county, somebody was nosing around and somebody started asking, well, we can't discuss it. We signed non-disclosure
The
agreements.
the elected officials?
Yeah.
That, obviously, they're in
And that's,
discussion with them.
at a certain point in projects, that's not unusual if you're dealing with a site consultant
Yeah.
for what I
Right.
call the old bricks and sticks types of project. But with the data centers, it's a much different playing field. And I'm seeing one extreme to the other, and almost all of them are requiring non-disclosure agreements. Now, the willingness of officials to sign them is completely up to the official. If it were me, I wouldn't want to be involved in that.
I can tell you from the council side, we've got a lot of pressure put on us to include data centers in our UDO.
In
To
what?
include them,
To be BZA, they have to be approved by the board.
special exception, yeah.
Special exception.
And that's what I would expect as you start thinking about this. Really, it comes down to two items. What would be the appropriate zoning district if you were going to consider them? And two, are you going to do it as a special exception? Now, if you say yes to special exception, that's where these other factors, what other factors do you want to consider that are reasonable to evaluate whether you grant that special exception? And that is setbacks, noise, lighting, utility consumption. When you read the Wheatley report, it'll get into some areas, and then I'm going to send you some additional information about other counties, primarily in northern or central Indiana, that have recently drafted ordinances or approved ordinances, so you can look at how theirs are set up.
What is the county done? Are they have a moratorium right now? They have nothing.
No,
That's why we have solar fields.
I don't know about that, but,
Paul, out of curiosity too, from some of your other peers, one of the things I didn't see on here is like aesthetics or the look on the outside, and a lot of manufacturing facilities today. I'm not thinking of around here, but they have a setback and maybe trees and a berm, and you're not maybe affecting property values around it as much. Has that been a discussion at all in Marion County? or
there is a
others?
buffer within the Unified Development Ordinance now. There is a buffering
or any.
section of it. As a part of the special exception, that's something that we can look at whether we want to go further. Solar, the project went further than what they're required to by ordinance on the Crossvine Solar, especially with a couple of Kex and Gasser that live closest. They're going above and beyond what the ordinance required as part of their settlement agreement.
They're doing it, yeah. Okay, part of the settlement agreement. I got you.
Right. So there's nothing to say that as the city gets into this, that the council and the plan commission can't recommend that we include buffering considerations in the special
But if
exception.
you have it on the front end, I would imagine that may be a little better and doesn't require as much wrangling later.
Yes.
or not.
Correct. And it's theoretically, it's on the front end now. It's just, it is buffering plans for the most part are similar virtually anywhere you go in Indiana, in Indiana. They say, if it's between two different zoning categories, like a residential and a commercial or residential or industrial, here's how you determine what needs to go in, how far apart, whether it's on a berm or not, things like that. This would make, you can tighten it down a little bit and go a little bit further, I think, with the special exception considerations.
Cause I think
And-
it changes things when you get out in an more agriculture area too, you know, versus in a city. Where that could in many cases become more important.
Right.
You wouldn't think so, but it is if it's nice homes around and everything, and they're like, hey, man, you know, drive out my driveway and, you know, lower my property value, right?
Right. But those are all things that I want the plan commission members to start thinking about.
Is there,
Uh,
I'm trying to remember and I'm looking, is there a two-step on a special exception, like here
Just-
requires this and then upgrade it to maybe 5 additional steps? Is that?
There are
I'm trying to remember-
specific, our ordinance lays out what questions we ask in the special exception application now. I can send a copy of what our special exception application looks like now.
I just, it's been a while since I
And-
looked at them, but that's fine.
I mean, there are some statutory things that you need to consider, but over and above that, the community can go further with other considerations.
Yeah.
As long as we address the statutory requirements. Is the granting of the variance or the special exception going to be injurious
Mhm.
to the neighborhood or the area around it? Is it going to affect property values? You know, a lot of that's subjective, but then in other parts of it, it's not necessarily subjective. So
So how do you get, I always forget how, because it's been a while, how you get around the variance part, because they could go into agricultural and seek a variance to have that built there, right? Is there any way to protect us from that?
Yes, well, if we only allow it within if you were to come out and the city were to say, the only district we will consider data centers within is heavy industrial.
Right,
At that point, they would have to come in and request a use variance
uh-huh,
or a rezoning of the
Right.
property to be
Right.
allowed to do it, plus the special exception.
right,
And at that point, they're going to be required to, which means they're going to have the plan commission involved in it, the Board of Zoning Appeals,
mhm,
and if it's a rezone, then ultimately the council is going to
okay.
be involved in it.
But there's no way to protect that in the future, that they,
No, I mean,
No.
it's always going to be something that's on the table,
yeah, that's what I thought.
but whether, you know, it just depends on the company.
Yeah. So on the variance, like if it's zoned, heavy industrial, there's permitted uses, right?
Yes,
Okay, so would it be a permitted use or require the special exception is what you're saying?
it would be a permitted use only by special exception
So
within
it'd be
that
on the
zone.
special exception side,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
And I know there was a question on there to ask about some of the morality or moral. So I guess if people or around neighbors don't like it and express their, disgust, I guess, against it, I guess that would kind of,
yeah, but that's really up to the board, you know. You can get around that. I mean, we did that on the north side where we were, right?
Yeah.
They were all pretty much against it. so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that
And it looks
It
good.
really-
Looks better than the houses.
Better
it
than
really,
houses.
it really comes
It
down
does.
to how compelling an
Don't agree,
ar-
Glenn?
argument.
I don't know where you're talking about.
Treader's storage,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
So there are no easy
Aesthetics around there
pathways.
are nice.
That's what,
That's
and they
what it should
didn't
be.
want it. But every person that lived out there did not want it, so.
Right.
So,
So just so that I'm clear on how that's gonna work, if you zone it only as heavy industrial,
it would be a special exception.
yeah, then you also tag it as special exception
Yeah,
under heavy industrial.
yeah.
If you don't tag it
If
with
you
special
look at
and,
the one sheet, and I've got one, I'll send it out along with the application for special exceptions that we currently use. On the heavy industrial zoning, there's a sheet of paper that says, these are the permitted uses, and they're in 2 columns. And then over here, there's another column, it's a different color, that says, permitted uses only by special exception. it would be listed in that column.
You just put
Yeah, it would be,
directly in there right away and,
yeah, all it means is they're eligible to apply to receive a special exception.
and then if we name this, the things that are needed to meet the special exception,
The factors we would consider in
It-
making that special section, there's gonna be 3 or 4 that are required by state law. And then there are going to be any others that we want to use to evaluate them. That would be whether it's noise or lighting, utility consumption. And generally, that's going to require them to meet with you, specific utilities and get a sign off saying, yes, here's what we would need. Do you have the capacity to provide it or not?
okay, then if they go through and meet all of those, then are they good? Or do we still have
They're-
a fallback?
At that point, it comes down to the Board of Zoning Appeals taking a vote. They're not obligated to say yes.
Okay, even though, no, they meet the special exception.
Right, it'll end up in, it
Criteria.
would probably end up in court,
Mhm.
but they're not required to say yes just because all these factors have been
Okay.
addressed.
Well, if I kind of flip the thinking here for a second, you know, cause in the public and in the news and everything you hear, you know, it's more negative, right? But obviously, you know, these data centers bring in jobs, property tax dollars, all these things. Some of your peers you've talked to, is any of them had I would think kind of the approach of, hey, we want them here because of what they bring from a tax revenue standpoint and jobs, good jobs, all these things. So, you know, maybe our approach is what's necessary, but we try not to cross the line to be too restrictive either. You know what I mean, just from a mentality standpoint, or is it totally just, we don't want them?
It depends on what
Oh,
community you're
yeah.
in.
Yeah.
What I'll tell you is if you, in that Wheatley study, that Wheatley groups, they get into property tax impacts. And
yeah,
they start
Very
talking,
heavily, yeah.
they talk about it quite a bit.
A lot of money.
I can argue data centers equally well from either side of the fence. I also follow the electric utility industry very heavily and have for decades. If you look at Virginia, which is the state that led the charge, they have a higher percentage of data centers in it. I get a little more concerned when I start seeing PJM, which is the grid operator that MISO feeds into, which goes into the Federal East Coast Reliability. Twice this summer, they've already told all data centers in the state, you need to come offline and you need to immediately start your generators up.
Well, and I only say that because I mean, in this country, there are communities our size growing and there's ones dying all over the country,
Right,
right? And
it's-
sometimes these are crossroads.
right. And it's just a question of how thin have we sliced things
Mhm.
and what's going to be done.
After I looked at the UDO, are we gonna have different development standards for them versus what is currently?
Yeah, the development standards will also be drafted, and Phil and I have talked a little bit about
They're
that.
pretty
Pardon?
close. The ones that we have now are really close for
Right.
heavy industrial.
And Phil and I have discussed it, the mayor and I have discussed it. We just want to make sure that we've dotted all our i's and crossed all our t's to make sure that ultimately, if something were to come in and knock on the door, we did the best job that we as a community can do to protect the community. And that is it a project that's good for us in the community? That's one thing. Is it one that you're pushing chain uphill? It probably is not a good fit then. But rather than wait until one comes in and
Right.
knocks on the door and
Yeah,
everybody's suddenly panicking, saying, we've got to come up. We want to
yeah.
do this at the front end of it.
Yes.
And
And
like
the,
you
the
said,
other
it's-
thing is that we have to keep in mind that we already have data centers and have had for decades in virtually every major community in the state of Indiana. You know, your banks, your financial institutions operate small scale data centers.
So
Most
do,
manufacturers operate small scale data centers.
Mhm.
so do we put some kind of a threshold then?
Well, and that's going to be a discussion that's going to involve looking at other communities and talking to other attorneys to see how their communities have handled it. Because in my mind, the answer is yes, there are thresholds that you have to consider, but how do you do that without being arbitrary and capricious? That's the problem. And if you look at the definition of a data center in the Indiana General Assembly, from the Indiana General Assembly, that's wide enough, it covers everybody in the state,
Mhm.
whether they're 20 years old or 3 days old. So,
That relates back to, what's our grandfather clause look like? In the event, like you said, like GAB has, it, and now they fit within the definition of a data center, but they're grandfathered because they don't have to meet the requirements because it was there before we passed the ordinance.
it would be considered a legally established non-conforming use.
I understand that, but my next question is, when they remodel,
Bingo.
okay, so they're gonna remodel, oh, wait a minute, you remodel, you're no longer grandfathered.
Are you changing the footprint of the
Yeah,
building?
and see,
Oh, okay.
so then you're grandfathered and you don't meet the minimum requirements anymore. So do
Right.
they need, then they would have to come back and get,
Those are all the types of things that we have to think about
yeah,
before we do anything.
jeez.
I think some of the things there, like decibel level is a good one because no one in here hits 55.
Right. Well, my tractor's louder than 55.
That's right.
But the
Um,
bank is closer than 25 feet to the residents across the street.
Yeah.
And that's
It's,
the minimum setback for
And I brought up
industrial.
that average because, even in manufacturing, you literally could have an explosion. And if you're quiet the rest of the 8 hours, you can meet the 85 decibel OSHA requirement.
as an
Only
example,
happened
when I,
once.
You can't. So
Yeah,
you-
yeah,
you-
yeah.
That's why a lot
Yeah.
of them have, maximums too, right?
Yeah.
I have a case that I worked on in West Central Indiana. Somebody bought a house that had been next to a rifle range that range had been there 75 years. Now, 30-06, 150, 160 decibels is the minute you squeeze that trigger. They successfully, it was in Hendricks County. They took them 10 years. They finally took it to court, even though you could see that rifle range from the back of their house when they bought it.
Mhm.
They got that rifle range shut down.
Mhm.
And it
Oh,
was
they
over
shut it down.
noise.
Wow.
Mhm.
It's,
It's,
it's like the person that buys the house next to the dairy farm. Then I don't like the smell.
Mhm.
Well, I mean,
Dennis, move your
and you
house.
run it,
It
Dennis knows
stink.
what I'm talking about.
Dennis, your cows
It
stink.
happens all the time. So there are, the thing is, there are a tremendous number of things for everybody to consider.
Mhm.
If somebody were to walk in the door today with that project, the response is, it's not listed as a permitted use in any zoning district, which means at that point, then it comes down to an administrative determination from the planning department. Are there other uses that are similar to it in the community?
And there is.
And then it's a question of what's the appropriate zoning district that it would need to be in. So it's why we want to get ahead of it.
Yeah. Basically, you would have to make it up on the fly.
Yeah. And
Try
that's
to-
not good for anybody.
Yeah, right.
Because it makes it tough for anybody else coming in the door because it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Such as were the solar panels,
What's that?
such as it was for the solar panel.
It's,
Slippery slope.
but like I said, I would just like everybody, you'll see stuff come out from me. I'll send items to you, the special exception application. I'll email out to everybody and then also just I'll send you the one-page thing from the heavy industrial zone, just so you can see how it is here and then permitted.
I kind of
specials.
showed him online here.
Oh, okay.
So what have you, or what are the legitimate problems? I've heard sound and
Fire.
water usage.
Sound, water usage, extra generation
Well,
if
yeah,
need be.
power.
Lighting plans and impacts on property values. And that's one that's so tough to try to come up with.
That's arbitrary and
Yeah,
capricious.
well, I mean, it's tough. If,
Arbitrary for sure.
Mhm.
I've heard some about toxic fumes too. Maybe it's more of a, if
Well,
something catches on
the
fire. but-
best storage or whatever, yeah, I guess toxic fumes that catches fire.
People don't like change, so, you know.
Well, that's what I was asking. What are the legitimate?
well, and that's why I want you to look at some of the other stuff. I'll highlight them before I email the PDFs out on what other communities are considering in Indiana. I've got a couple of websites. got a fairly good website with reference with links to other studies that have been done or other information on them. As a resource, it's pretty good. Where Huntingburg nor any other community is ever going to have a perfect ordinance.
Mhm.
It's just making it one that everybody can be as comfortable with it as it can possibly be.
Yeah, that's heavy industrial.
And I really think if you look at buffering
Mhm.
distances or setback distances and
Yeah.
that, you start, as long as you're not saying 2,500 feet.
Yeah.
Which is
Ridiculous.
pretty ridiculous. 500 seems to be fairly reasonable. But then you start looking at places that meet that 500-foot setback, and you dramatically curtail where it theoretically
Slim
can
and
go.
none, right?
And then you've
none.
got floodplain issues
Mhm.
all the way around it.
Mhm.
So. But
And
as
it would
sure
go
as
the
we-
same for agricultural. It's the same. It's no different from heavy industrial and we really don't have that many places.
Right. Actually, I would say you probably have fewer in the agricultural district
Mm-hmm,
that meet the requirements, and actually, they're probably about the same
mm-hmm,
when you start looking at floodplain and things
Yeah.
like that.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But that's all I've got. There's gonna be quite a bit of discussion here in the next several weeks, probably the next 2 to 3 months between the council. They'll be asked to start considering the same things. Nobody has made a formal statement that the plan commission or the council, either one can make the determination we want to go ahead and change the ordinance. We wanted to get this part of the homework part of it done before we get to that step if possible.
And you said Jasper hasn't done anything on this and neither has the
I'm not
county?
aware that anything they've done.
Okay.
I'll double check on it. Not a lot of southern Indiana communities have done a tremendous amount, except for those that are close to, let's see,
Well, Charleston Southern.
over closer to Louisville, New Albany, Clarksville, and that area has done some stuff.
Mhm.
That's where Charlestown's pretty close to that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Charlestown.
but that's all I have.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Glenn, you did a heck of a job.
Yeah, you did, Glenn.
Need a motion
Congrats.
to-
I'll make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Well, I should have waited until after he.
I think Matt has been either the motion or the second since I've been here.
Yes, for the
Keep
close.
He's already,
up the
he's
street.
ready to hit the road.
Ready to get the heck out of here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you had no opinion on data centers, did you?
Hey, the longer we're here, the more. we
Because
get
every
paid,
time,
right?
if there's gonna be one here, our office will represent him and I'll have to abstain anyway, so.
So
It's,
We've had a lot of pressure from citizens to include data centers on our special exceptions.
And I think we should. Yeah, that's so smart, so smart.